that gives an opening to countries like China. And so you would think that it's in America's best interest to keep USAID intact. And yet that's not what we're doing. We're instead ceding that ground to China, and that's bad for America, but it's good for one person. And that's Elon Musk, who has business interests in Beijing, who has business interests in Shanghai. And that's just one example, the USAID thing. We're seeing countless examples
it's the right one.
Where there are institutions that benefit.
YouTuber Brian Tyler Cohen was on Chris Cuomo's News Nation show to talk about Elon Musk's slash and burn tactics with USAID. We're going to take a look at clips of this interaction between Brian Tyler Cohen and Chris Cuomo. I have some thoughts on this too. Let's get into it together.
Brian Tyler Cohen, progressive YouTuber, friend of show, posted a tweet about this today in response to Vance's call to rehire the DOGE employee. He wrote, the husband of an Indian-American wife and the father of 3 Indian-American kids wants to bring back the staffer who posted normalize Indian hate. Brian joins me now. It's good to see you, young man. Always a pleasure.
Thanks, Chris.
So here's the counter. Yes, he has to defend him because you and your brothers and sisters, or whatever they call themselves, want to cancel everyone who says anything you don't like. It's not enough to disagree. It's not enough for them to have to apologize. God forbid anybody apologize because you kill them with that. But you want to cancel them. And that's what you guys are about. And it's out of step with the compassion of the American psyche. And people are against you on it. And that's why Vance has taken the other side.
I mean, think about what that looks like in practice here. This desperation to push back on cancel culture, right? Thanks to Vance now, you have this DOGE employee whose stated position is that Indians should feel hated in America. He's going to be rehired. And then Vance gets to go home to his Indian American wife and his Indian American kids and look them in the eyes and say that a guy who wants you to feel uncomfortable in your own country now has a top job again in the government thanks to me. Like, Vance had a chance to defend his own family, and he opted instead to defend the Indian-hating bigot instead. Like, Chris, where are the balls on these Republican men? Trump calls Ted Cruz's wife ugly. Ted Cruz becomes Trump's best friend. Elon wants the DOGE kid who hates Indians back, and Vance does his bidding while his Indian wife and kids are at home. Like, do they castrate these guys at the door of the RNC?
They have to pick a side, Brian, because this is what you guys do. Look, I see it. I think you got high ground.
They could pick a side of the guy who isn't saying these things about their wives. It's pretty simple. You know, this, I think, is part of what drives people crazy about politics and how I just don't understand the people that love Donald Trump, that they don't look at these figures around him as loathsome figures. I mean, can you imagine? I just can't imagine any man sucking up to somebody who called their wife ugly. I mean, what kind of man does that? But that's just what's so disgusting about these right-wing figures. And I mean, people, you know, politicians on the left do this as well. This is why people hate politicians so much, partially. But I'm with Brian Tyler Cohen on this. You know, Chris Cuomo is acting like, well, the left is worse. I don't recall anybody on the left calling Ted Cruz's wife ugly.
Here, because this guy is a real one. He is a bigot. And I guess Vance, because he's married to an Indian woman and his kids are half Indian, he has portfolio to say, I can treat this guy any way I want because I'm the one being affected by his hate, not you. Okay, but I see the same thing in you guys, how you're assessing the executive orders. Everything Trump wants to do has to be illegal and wrong. Waste, fraud, and abuse. Everything Musk is doing has to be wrong. And I feel like you guys get stuck, not so much with the racist kid. I think you're on the right side of that one. But these 80-20 issues, trans females in sports, you know, whether you should stand for the anthem, things where like most people are like, yeah, you should do that. You guys take the 20 side because Trump's on the 80 side. And I see that was the waste, fraud, and abuse. And I see it as an extension of the same toxic dynamic, if not as ugly an example.
Look, I think that you'll be hard pressed to find Democrats who say if there's legitimate fraud that we have to somehow keep it just because of stasis. But what Elon is doing here is not really doing that. I mean, by taking away USAID, which again, the reason he did it is clear. It's because they were investigating him. I mean, this is just over 0.5% of the budget. It does things like delivers clean water and offers HIV prevention across the world. Not only are those good unto themselves, again, for a fraction of the budget, but they confer goodwill to America across the entire planet. And then that means that when there's global conflicts, we have that goodwill to bank on. When we cede that ground, that gives an opening to countries like China. And so you would think that it's in America's best interest to keep USAID intact. And yet that's not what we're doing. We're instead ceding that ground to China, and that's bad for America, but it's good for one person. And that's Elon Musk, who has business interests in Beijing, who has business interests in Shanghai. And that's just one example, the USAID thing. We're seeing countless examples
it's the right one.
Where there are institutions that benefit.
Look, of course, a lot of the agencies do good things, Brian, but let's stick with the instant example because it's what we're living right now. Look, my beef, it's not my beef. My challenge is this. They can't get rid of the agency. Congress has to be involved in that. So there's going to be a litigation. That part's going to be on hold. The Democrats seem as though you are completely oppositional to any efforts to do anything. Why not instead Ro-Khanna it and say, hey, look, these list of things that you said in the subscriptions, Republicans and Democrats got those subscriptions from Politico, but if you want them out, that's fine. Let's see what else we can get rid of. We're here for it. You guys don't own waste, fraud, and abuse. We want it gone but no, you oppose it every step of the way. I haven't heard a single Democrat say anything good other than the yeah, but. Yeah, we're against it, but. And then you're against everything they're doing to get rid of it.
I think that if you really want to show Americans that you're legit about rooting out waste, fraud, and abuse, then go to the agency, for example, that's failed, the last 8 or 9 audits, and that's the military. But they won't touch the things that are obvious, that are the obvious 100%. Targets. Instead, when you go after USAID, the agency that is investigating Elon Musk, it shows that you're not serious about this.
Now, Chris Cuomo and Tyler Cohen are both correct about this. Yes, we're talking about billions of dollars here, but in the grand scheme of the budget, these are really nickel and dime things that they're going after. And I've heard tons of people on the left, and I'm one of these who would say this as well, if they would go after the Pentagon and make real cuts there, not some kind of BS cut like, oh, here's this part of the Pentagon that's outreach to try to get more women into the military and we spend $100 million on that or whatever. Not BS cuts like that. Real cuts to say, do we need 900 military bases around the country, around the world rather? Do we need to we've given $300 billion plus to Israel. Do we need to continue giving that much money to them? If they'd start to actually look at those things, people on the left would be on board. Yes, there would be some people that they're just on Team D, and so they're fighting against Team R, but there would be legitimate progressives and actual people on the left that would just be like, hey, I don't care who does it. If it's Donald Trump, it's Elon Musk, it's somebody, with an R next to their name, bring it on. We want to make cuts to defense. But also Chris Cuomo acts like, well, the people on the left or Democrats are just going to disagree with these things because Donald Trump and Elon Musk are the people that are doing them. Well, first of all, people are upset that Elon Musk isn't going through any proper protocol. He's just going in there, poking around, doing God knows what. We just have to assume that these agencies are doing these quote unquote bad things or wasteful things that he's accusing them of. And you have all the people on the right that all of a sudden are like, yeah, Elon's rooting out all this waste and corruption and evil things in this agency, USAID, that I'm sure the vast majority of them, if they had heard of USAID a week ago, didn't know what it was doing and didn't know of any wrongdoing within USAID. So it's completely disingenuous. They're just Team R, they're Team MAGA, and they're going to go along with whatever Team MAGA says. And again, I think any rational person, I don't care what their political views are, believes that there is waste within our federal government and there are cuts that could be made. Like Tyler Cohen and Chris Cuomo are saying, start with defense. I don't think that will happen, but the idea that with USAID, which was started in the early 60s by JFK, we just had this total corruption on both sides, Republicans and Democrats were continually allocating money to this, and it was just this completely corrupt organization doing all these evil things. I mean, I guess people could make that argument about other departments, but it kind of seems unlikely that all of these horrible things that they're claiming have happened could have happened for more than 50 years, 60 years, and just both sides were completely on board. You know, they want to act like it was all of this lefty stuff happening when Republicans were on board with USAID as well and very supportive of it. And you have Republicans in Congress still supportive of it, even as Elon Musk is doing his slash and burn techniques in there. Let me know what you think about all of this in the comments. Do you side more with Tyler Cohen? Do you side more with Chris Cuomo here? This is Chris on Culture. I'll see you in the next video.